and welcome to another episode of the MENA Surge podcast. We're here today with Celeste Malhotra, General Manager of Geidea, and I think I pronounced Geidea correctly that time, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, sure. So tell us a little bit more about Geidea and what it is that you guys do for the fintech community.
Thank you. Pleasure being here. Geidea is one of the fastest growing fintechs in the MENA region today. We started a journey way back in 2008 where we were leading the way in providing infrastructure to banks and other fintechs wanting to get into this space of payments. We started providing the payment services to the merchants themselves through our aggregation models and through our direct merchant acquiring model. We also launched our own POS systems, which allowed the merchant to then experience embedded payments, which is truly a very unique service that we provide today. So our journey has been a very long journey, where from an infrastructure provider to now a service provider, and in an omni-channel platform. So today, whether you look at e-com, you look at POS, you look at emerging payments such as QR codes and all of that, we have a very large presence. Some of the unique things about Geidea is we were the first non-bank financial services company to be licensed by SAMA, which was the first, a big achievement, right? In UAE, we are fully licensed by the central bank, and we are a full-fledged acquirer. In Egypt, we have licenses with 4 of the largest banks, and we are one of the largest bill providing company and also the payment processor. So in a nutshell, we are a very comprehensive, very well-rounded fintech company.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And so since 2008, if my math serves me correct, that's about 16 years that you've been operating. And I'm trying to think back to when I first got my first smartphone. It was probably around 2010, 2011.
Yeah.
So 2008 was before the world as we know it, right?
Yeah, true.
So I can imagine there was a lot of technologies that Geidea was on the cutting edge of that maybe is no longer something that we really use today. Can you think of things that...
Absolutely. And to be very honest, this has become a pure tech play now. If you roll back to 2008 and prior to 2008, it was an industry with a lot of manual processes. I don't know even if you were born then, because you look pretty young, by the way.
Thank you.
When you wanted to do a credit card payment, you had to use the click-clack machine. They would take the impression, and then the charge slips had to be submitted to the bank for processing. To that point, to now where 100% transactions are electronic, meaning I cannot even dream of any other way of doing transactions. And Geidea made it possible by bringing in this innovation. We bringing in this technology and making it accessible in a very cheap and convenient way to banks and fintechs to process payments on behalf of their customers.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And so what are the most recent sort of advancements that you're seeing in fintech, I suppose?
So much is happening. I can't call out all, but let me talk about the big ones which are making a big impact. And the big impact is coming from embedded payments. The merchants themselves have, they have modernized a lot. There is a certain demand for it, right? The merchants today want everything to be digital, single window. They want embedded payments. They want in-app payments. They want payments through QR codes. Cheaper, faster, and better. Right? The second, where the biggest innovation is happening, is artificial intelligence. I was attending a conference in the morning, and some of the data that I was hearing was really mind-blowing. And a couple of snippets that I would like to share is that one of the questions that the individual asked was that, can you imagine how much time will it take for a human being to download all the information from the internet? And the answer was 181 million years. That's the quantum of information and quantum of data that is available. For you to process that information is humanly not possible. But AI makes that happen, right? Today, a very experienced or a tenured data analyst spends only 20% of the time in cleaning up the data, right? The 80% of the time goes in creating a storyline, looking at it, analyzing it.
Insights.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So think about it, we have a long way to go. There's truckloads of information available, and artificial intelligence is the platform that's going to enable the completion of the journey part of it. So I think the two biggest innovations are embedded payments and artificial intelligence.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think that, whenever we talk about technology in general, there's always the, what comes first, which foot comes first, whether it's regulation or the technology is there, but the infrastructure is not there, or the demand is not there yet, even though the technology will eventually catch up, the demand will catch up. Do you think that sometimes that the technology is fueling the demand, which then demands more perfect, seamless technology?
Oh wow, you put it very nicely, right? So couple of things, lot of things are happening in parallel. Number one is that our regulators today are very smart. They're genuinely smart, and they are making a lot of effort in keeping up with the times. I would say in some cases they are even ahead of times, and they are making it easier and to become part of to be an enabler of the innovation that's happening in the industry. The second is the technology is evolving really fast. From a time when we used to have multi-million-dollar heavy-duty mainframe systems to now literally everything is hosted on the cloud. There is no physical device in any of your facilities or your offices, maybe one server lying somewhere, right? So technology has advanced a lot. The demand is a total beast in itself, right? The customers are now getting used to asking things that they need, they feel a gap for, and they know that somebody will come up with a solution to fill up that gap, right? And the regulators and the rest of the players will keep up pace. Because technically speaking, if you look at it, that's exactly what's happening. Customers ask for it, they dream about it, they think about it, they experience a gap, and they'll say, I want it. And then suddenly a whole of technology companies begin thinking, and they say, oh, we have the solution. And then the regulators will say, hey, hang on, we have to first certify and make sure that it's safe. So it's all happening in tandem.
For sure.
Yeah.
I know that the more technology speeds up, the less patient that I become for all the merchants that are not quite caught up. One of my biggest pet peeves, and I'll say it all over again, is hotels.
Yeah.
I mean, you book online, you pay for it already, and you still have to stand in line for 20 minutes in order to get your ticket. Catch up hotels.
No, it's happening. It's happening. Mm-hmm. I was recently in London, and before I could even land, just like in the airlines, which says online check-in, I got the link to online check-in into my room. And I clicked it, and the room number was there.
Oh, great.
So it's
Let me know that hotel offline, and I'll make sure that's the only place that I stay now. so that's one of the gaps that I've seen. Are there certain gaps that you feel like should have been filled at this point already? Or is there certain things that you feel like it's time to step up?
Stephen, it's so interesting. Your questions are fantastic.
Thank you.
When we look at our lives in a payment industry, right? As I look at how I spend my day, our days are so much involved in customer meetings, firefighting, looking at what next, what is coming, what is on the roadmap. We hardly think about or hardly get any time, at least I can speak for myself, and I'm guilty of this, is that I don't spend too much of time at looking at what the gaps are. We only realize the gaps when we speak to our customers. And I say that we rely very heavily on our clients to tell us where the gaps are. Within the industry, we are so busy selling our story, our value proposition, that we very seldom realize it. It's when we get in touch of a client or a new client or a new emerging business or a new emerging industry player that we realize, oh, hang on, there's something coming up, and then they want it. And then you go back to your product team and your tech team, and then they start working around it. So for me to say where the gaps are, a tough call.
It's a bit of a confession if we do.
I'll be honest, meaning there will be a lot of people who may turn around and say, hang on, I know the gaps are, but...
Not me.
No.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
And before we came on the camera, you were talking a bit about a stat that you heard just today in the world of contactless payments. Yes. Can you tell us a little bit about?
So contactless payment is the fastest growing payment segment. Today, you look at it when you want to take a metro, you want to board a bus, you want to buy a burger, or even if you want to pay for your groceries, the first thing that comes in your hand is your mobile phone or any other wearable device that you may be carrying, right? Very rarely do we sit back and see that how many such transactions are going through. And I was in a conference this morning and the guy quoted that just on their system, they see 50 billion transactions a year on contactless.
Per year.
Per year. And that kind of makes me wonder that they are only one particular scheme. And when you look at the other schemes that are operating, right, and if I start totaling them, the number could be a staggering more than $1 trillion, right? So the number is growing. That's how our younger generations, Gen Z likes to pay. That's how even the older generations are paying, right? I always, whenever I get an opportunity, I say that, my mother is now 75 years old. And whenever I visit her, and if I go shopping with her, and I try to pull out my card, she will give me a slap on my wrist and say, that's not how you pay. I'll show you how to pay. And she'll whip out her mobile phone and she will scan the QR code and she says, done. Right? So it's the older generation, the younger generation, my generation, your generation, which has adopted to contactless so well that we seldom pull out cards from our pocket. So when I hear these numbers like 50 billion or 1 trillion, I'm not surprised anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I definitely rarely have my wallet on me anymore. Yeah. It's almost like my passport that I think I know which bag it's in. I'll let you know when I need to find it because I just use my phone for everything.
Yeah.
So at this stage, we pretty much expect a merchant to accept contactless payments.
True.
How does that affect the way that we actually consume things and our actual consumer behavior?
I think what it does is, contactless has had a phenomenal impact on the payment industry per se. And I'll tell that to you. When I was in college, I used to only pay back cash. I never had a credit card, right? Today, when my daughter is in college, she has her own credit card, right? She has my supplementary card. That card is enabled on our mobile phones. It was assumed as I was growing up that any expensive transaction that you do goes on the credit card. Mm-hmm. Today, it is assumed that if it is a transaction, then it goes on a credit card or a debit card or through digital or through QR code. So the general assumption of how you are going to settle the payment or make a payment has changed a lot from the time when I was growing up to what today is, where it is assumed that the payment will be done digitally. So
for sure.
It's had a major impact. From an industry point of view, I now see much larger volumes of transaction going in, higher frequency with which the transaction comes in, which helps me to achieve economies of scale. And therefore, my cost per transaction continuously and rapidly continues to decline, which allows me to then become more economical and pass on those benefits to the merchant, which I assume at some point in time the merchants will pass it on to the consumer.
For sure.
Right?
So, I also see, a lot more of these microtransactions.
Yes.
Because I remember when I was younger, my parents would still buy groceries by writing a check.
True.
We wouldn't just go and buy a bottle of water or a Gatorade with a check. We would go ahead and make sure it was a full grocery haul, and that's how they would pay for it. Whereas, now we have no problem ordering from Amazon for something that's 15 dirhams to be delivered. I remember I was afraid to order anything online because, it's going to take 2 weeks, so might as well just wait until we end up at the store to buy it. Do you think that this is hurting people's budgeting by saying, you can pay 15 dirhams here, you can pay 100 dirhams here and 50 dirhams there?
See, the whole value proposition of a credit card was to capture the impulse spend, right? The value proposition was that if a merchant accepts a credit card and some individual is window shopping and he likes it, he can do that transaction with a card in his pocket, even though he may not have the kind of cash in his pocket. So the entire value prop is based on capturing that impulse spend, capturing the more and more share of get more and more share of his wallet, right? Now, one thing that I would like to assume is that people do the budgeting and they stick to their budgets. Now, do they tend to overspend? Well, if I look at the statistics within the credit card industry, there is a very large population of people who roll on their credits, right, month on month by paying the minimum amount what is due. So I guess it would be hurting somewhere, right? But I would say that I can't generalize. It's about an individual to an individual, how they do their budgetings. My prime value proposition is to make sure that if they do tend to want to spend, the merchant has the ability to accept that transaction.
Mm-hmm. Yep, makes total sense.
Yeah.
And you were talking about the amount of people that roll over credit card debt and they get in credit cards, and I think that we all know, especially me being from the U.S., college kids are the first people that they target with a credit card, right?
Yes.
With so many people rolling over their credit card debt month on month, now we're starting to see buy now, pay later.
Yes.
Is that just the same thing by a different name when it comes to capturing that impulse spend, or is this actually a solution that we were looking for?
See, buy now, pay later. First of all, it's a phenomenal product. I don't say this because I'm from the industry, but generally speaking, what BNPL companies are doing is they are bringing aspirational products into the hands of the people who may not have the money to buy it, right? That's a value proposition of a BNPL. So you might have a new joiner who makes, hypothetically speaking, let's say 5,000 dirhams a month, but wants to buy a $10,000 Louis Vuitton bag, right? Now BNPL has enabled that individual to achieve that aspiration by paying money in smaller equitable installments, right? Now, what the BNPL companies do is they do not overburden the consumer by applying very high interest rates. They do not overburden the consumer by going through reams and reams of paper just because they want to purchase something. Right? They made it very, very convenient. And the cost is shared somewhere between the merchant and a few other stakeholders through the margins that they have. So yes, the merchant's margins have declined, but the sales have gone up. The consumer got what they wanted by paying a minimal amount on a monthly basis and was able to achieve something which was very aspirational for him. So overall, BNPL has played a very big role in the consumerization in terms of bringing more consumer products in the hands of the people. So I think it's phenomenal what they've achieved in a very short span of time.
Great. And do you see a difference between what people are using BNPL to pay for versus what they're using credit cards to pay for versus what they're using their...
Oh, yeah, clearly. You can see that. You can see that BNPL is being used mostly for retail spend. We see the usage of BNPL in resorts, hotels, staycations, vacations, luxury goods. And BNPL has penetrated all these segments very, very well. Credit cards are generic, right? You can use your credit card today to buy a burger or pay for your metro or buy some extremely luxurious product that you want to have, or buy a whole car or pay for your condominium that you want to do. So credit card is what it is. It's more universal. BNPLs are still more focused on aspirational products, and that's where we see the penetration of BNPL increasing.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
I know that one of the ways that it has helped me for sure is that for things that you don't really expect, such as like a car needs to go to the shop. Next thing you know, they say it's 10,000 dirhams.
Yeah.
Maybe I have it, maybe I don't, but it would just be a lot easier to be able to pay it off in installments. Not
Absolutely.
necessarily that I would be in trouble if I didn't have it, but the things that, hey, it would be easier for me to not have to be broke at the end of this month. I still have 2 weeks left in the month.
Yes.
Let's go ahead and use that BNPL.
Yes.
And we had talked a little bit about the online payments, and now like ordering things online is just so much more common now.
True.
When it first came out, I remember I used to have to go to a magazine and actually like call a phone number, and that's how you would get things ordered. And now you went online, and then now, like we said, we can order 20 dirhams from Amazon and not even think twice about it, barely even feel bad. I actually feel inconvenienced when I actually have to go and pay at the door for a delivery that I had ordered, right?
True.
How do you think that has changed the way that people are spending?
See, it's changed a lot, and it changed during COVID. See, if you look at it, that was a very scary time, but it did wonders for the e-commerce business, right? Because that was a time when people didn't want to even touch cash, right? They didn't want to touch cash, they didn't want to touch the products, they didn't want to go near a POS machine. Malls are practically empty. If you remember the COVID time, it was a very scary time. People were barely on the street. And that's the time when the retailers realized the power of e-commerce. And they said, hang on, just because the consumers are not coming into my shop doesn't mean that I have to shut shop. It's just the fact that I have to now reach out to them rather than they reaching out to me. And that led to this whole economy of creating websites, applications, and retailers getting really creative and how they reach out to their potential customers. And one of the key roles that the payment industry played at that point in time was enabling these merchants through their e-commerce platforms, payment gateways, through their application, in-app payments, and so on and so forth. And e-com began to boom. During that time, if you look at it, the POS transactions actually declined, but e-com transactions went up by 3x. So it was a boom time which changed the behavior of not only the consumer, but even the merchants on how they were selling their merchandise. So a big impact. And now e-com is BAU. You're absolutely right. Even I sometimes, when I'm flipping through TikTok or Temu and I find something nice for 20 bucks, I was like, not bad, I'll buy it.
Yeah.
The other thing that changed the behavior was the trust element. If you know, a lot of the economies, the trust was missing, right? That I put my credit card number, will it be stolen? Will somebody steal my identity? Will someone steal my credit card? Will he deliver? Will he not deliver? And that's when a large number of merchants, I would say majority of merchants, change their terms and conditions. Credit card companies enhance the security around their products. And as and when people got more comfortable and nothing wrong went by, the trust factor started to building up. So I think a lot of people, a lot of stakeholders played big role in transforming the way the consumers today pay for it.
For sure, and it in a way allows people to be more personalized with the services that they offer. I mean, I think that we can all relate to the term, okay, send me the link. Send me the link and I'll pay for it. Okay, the service is done, the service needs to be done, send me the link. Within 3 minutes, you'll have your payment, everything will be sorted out. Whereas, before COVID, that was probably not as common to just send someone the link. And by saying send someone the link, that means that you're essentially talking to someone. How are you going to say that if you're just relying on whatever the content on the website that somebody put in? And we don't want to go through the AI chat bots. We want to be able to WhatsApp somebody. They WhatsApp, then you order the service, send me the link, and now it's paid.
True. Actually, Geidea has taken a pole position on this one. We have invested so much of money and we have put in so much of thought and technology into Pay by Link. Today, it has become one of our strong value props. So, Geidea is one of the companies which is completely digital. There's no paper. So you sign up, the merchant signs up digitally, submits a document. We have digital portals. You go onto the portal, you can access your dashboards, and then there is a small Pay by Link that you can send it to your customers. So customer wants to pay, you send the link, the customer receives the link, which is completely customized. So you know exactly which merchant it's coming from, the pictures and so on. You click on it and you pay. So Pay by Link has actually become one of the largest methods of payment, and it's on a rise.
That's amazing. And seeing how we went from writing checks or even cash, then checks, then swiping a credit card, to tapping a credit card, to tapping a phone on a credit card machine, to now we can basically tap phone to phone and do the transaction. We make different things obsolete as we go, right?
True.
What's the next thing that's going to be obsolete?
Oh boy, that's a tough one. If you really ask me, hand on my heart, and it's my guess, don't hold me for it, but I think what is coming next is device-free acceptance. There will be no devices, right? Today, one of the demos that I saw at the conference was something that Amazon has launched, which is palm-based payment, meaning there's no device, there is no credit card, there is no mobile phone, there is nothing, but you put your palm on it, it reads your palm and it processes the payment, which basically means that my palm has pre-recorded all my credit cards in the back end, and it's using one of those cards to process the payment. It's phenomenal. It's not being rolled out. I haven't seen that at any merchant location. For me, it was pretty innovative. So looking at all these emerging trends, whether it's pay by face recognition, retina-based payments, or palm-based payments, or biometric-based payments, one of the things that's definitely going to happen is that your devices are going to disappear. Clearly.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the things that we're always afraid of as well, considering that we use our phones for everything until it dies. Until it dies, then what are we going to do?
Yeah, true.
Your palm should be there, inshallah. Well, thank you so much for coming. I think that we had a great conversation about fintech, about the advancements in fintech. Is there anything that you think that is holding fintech back from going to the next level?
I think, your biggest barrier to entry, whether it's a fintech or any other player, are two. Number one is the regulatory process. You still have to do truckloads of paperwork. You still have to do a lot of stuff to meet the requirements of the regulator. And the second is the technology barrier. The technology is still very expensive. If we can resolve these two, I think you will see a far more surge in fintechs getting into this space than it is today. And not that it's not happening, it's happening. Our regulators are fantastic, but I think there's more that can be done.
Amazing. Yeah. And we know that you're once again a sponsor of Fintech Surge.
Yes.
Happening at Dubai Harbor this year for the second year in a row.
Yes.
How many years have you sponsored the event?
I think this is our third year now. Third year now, yeah.
I've been here 3 years, so at least 3.
Yeah. And we quite like it. We like participating with Fintech Surge. They connect us with so many of our existing customers and our potential customers. We like sharing the platform with the other players and sharing what is the innovation that Geidea brings to the industry, brings to the market, and we just love it. It's a fantastic forum.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, we look forward to seeing you. I know you're going to be on some panels. You're going to have a stand there, and hopefully everybody is excited to meet you as well.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to it.
Great.
Thank you so much. Lovely talking to you.
Thank you. You as well.
Thank you for having me here.